Go ahead and start here with welcome everybody here today, and we will go and start with introductions to my right, starting with John.
John Strand, Fargo City Commission.
Rebecca Knutson, Fargo Board of Education.
Whitney Fear, Oglala Sioux Tribe.
Lenore King, Sisseton Wahpeton Oyate.
Heather Keeler, Ihangtawa Nation, Shoshone.
Guy Fox, MHA Nation.
Okay, and I'll start with a prayer here, and just Creator, please be with us today, help us make good decisions for our community, and bring us together in unity. Okay. All right, we can go ahead and approve the agenda and minutes here.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All in, say yes. Is everybody in?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and then we have a presentation here today from High Plains Fair Housing. Michelle Wrights, could you come up, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Michelle is in Chicago. She's at the John Marshall Law School Fair Housing Conference, and so she sent me to present for her instead. My name is AngelaUrlacher. I am a fair housing specialist with High Plains Fair Housing Center. Our mission is to strengthen communities and to ensure equal access to housing across North Dakota. We accomplish this through training, education, enforcement, and advocacy. Both state and federal housing laws require housing-related transactions to be free of unlawful discrimination. Nearly all rentals, sales, lending, and insurance transactions related to housing are covered. Federal law prohibits housing discrimination based on race, color, sex, national origin, religion, presence of children in the household, and physical or mental disability. And North Dakota state law prohibits housing discrimination based on all of these federally protected classes, plus age, marital status, and receipt of public assistance. There continues to be evidence that housing discrimination exists in the state, particularly against persons with disabilities, Native Americans, New Americans, LGBTQ individuals, and families with children. The evidence uncovered by a 2015 analysis of impediments released by the North Dakota Department of Commerce showed certain trends, including failure to make reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities, discriminatory advertising, lending discrimination against Native American and Hispanic applicants, discrimination based on receipt of public assistance, and lack of understanding of fair housing law and policy. Recently, High Plains Fair Housing conducted an audit to investigate housing discrimination in the LGBTQ population in North Dakota. This audit found that transgender and gender nonconforming individuals are experiencing high levels of discrimination in North Dakota. At High Plains Fair Housing, our intake specialists work directly with clients to obtain the housing they need. They also help remedy adverse situations through landlord mediation, and if necessary, we help assist clients through the administrative complaint process. We also provide fair housing education and outreach to housing consumers, housing industry groups, and local governments. This work includes conducting presentations and trainings, producing and distributing fair housing materials, participating in panel discussions, and being a resource for housing discrimination questions. We also partner with agencies and organizations across the state to promote fair housing policies and practices in North Dakota. Finally, when warranted, we investigate situations where housing discrimination may have occurred through our testing program. Discrimination found through our testing program can be used to assist clients in their housing discrimination complaints or used in an organizational complaint with the goal to end housing discrimination practices. Our recent audit of housing discrimination in the LGBTQ population was in response to the North Dakota State Legislature repeatedly voting against adding LGBTQ status as a protected class under North Dakota's Human Rights Act. During a 2017 hearing, several committee members expressed doubt that LGBTQ individuals face pervasive discrimination in our state. Through matched pair tests, we found high levels of discrimination against transgender and gender nonconforming individuals in North Dakota. Overall, 70% of the transgender and nonconforming testers experienced subtle forms of discrimination, such as no eye contact and no handshake. 80% of them experienced discrimination by not being shown the same number of units or being shown inferior units compared to our control testers. Other forms of discrimination, such as rushing through showings, not providing detailed information, or being abrupt, happened to 50% of the transgender and nonconforming testers. Finally, in 60% of the cases, transgender and gender nonconforming testers were asked prying questions that the control testers were not asked, such as, do you have a job? What is your level of education? Are you married? Do you have kids? One of the largest barriers to fair housing is that people are afraid to exercise their rights. From anecdotal evidence, we have learned that Native Americans are experiencing high rates of discrimination, but many are reticent to file complaints because they do not believe that the system will provide justice or because they fear experiencing retaliation. Toward that end, we have 2 programs to encourage people to report experiences of discrimination. First, we shortly will have an anonymous tip portal on our website to provide people with a space to anonymously report their stories, and then we can follow up with tests based on those reports. Second, the Supreme Court upheld fair housing testing as the only objective way to determine whether discrimination is occurring. As illustrated with our audit of discrimination against transgender and gender nonconforming individuals, fair housing testing, or secret shopping, as we sometimes call it, simulates the rental or lending scenario to determine if differential treatment is occurring. In order to complete this kind of testing, we need individuals from protected classes, including Native Americans, to be secret shoppers with our organization. I'm asking today if you could assist our organization in finding Native American individuals who would like to be testers. The work is legally protected. We provide our testers with specific guidelines so that the evidence they collect will be admissible in court. And when we suspect housing discrimination is occurring against Native Americans, we will set up a controlled test. So we'll send in a Native American tester who is given an alias, a specific credit score, and a specific income. Really, this person is an actor for us. And we have them inquire about some aspect of housing, like an apartment or a loan. And then shortly thereafter, we'll send in a control tester. In this case, we would send in a white individual to make the same inquiry under equally favorable conditions. And then we can compare the treatment to the 2 testers and determine whether discrimination is taking place. And if there is discrimination taking place, then we can file cases based on our evidence. In Bismarck, we are also piloting a project with the Sacred Pipe Resource Center, and the project involves several storytelling events, and we'll have a focus on housing in that. So if you know of anybody who would like to be a housing tester, please pass along my agency's contact information. And if you know of anybody experiencing housing discrimination, please let them know that our office may be able to help. We have offices in Grand Forks and Bismarck, but we serve the entire state of North Dakota. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions here? You can start with John, or on that end.
Angela, this is really insightful information, and what people say is anecdotal, you're coming up with evidence for. What type of teeth is there in the policy or law to give people the protections when the state doesn't allow it statutorily?
We work through HUD. People can file directly with HUD if they would like, or The Department of Labor and Human Rights has a substantial equivalence to HUD, and so if someone is experiencing discrimination and they want to file an official complaint, we can help them do the complaint process through the Department of Labor. And it kind of depends on the situation, what they might be able to get out of it. If they're really uncomfortable in their housing situation, we can assist them with getting out of their lease without paying any of the lease breaking fines. We can get them moving expenses. We can, depending on how the situation played out, we can, I'm trying to think of the other things, like anything that's, if they need to move, we can make it so that they can move without any cost to them. If something really egregious is happening, there are punitive damages that we could possibly seek against the property managers or the landlords.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Fantastic presentation. One, how can someone get their hands on the research that you just talked about regarding LGBTQ? Would that just be contacting you, or is there information available online?
I actually put it in the Reddit
It's
folders.
in here?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it this?
Yes.
Or maybe it's through the annual report one too?
Nope, it's the second
other
one.
one?
There's a little blib in the annual report, but then I printed out the fuller.
Okay, but this would be it,
Yep.
okay. And then, yeah, I've oftentimes wondered, in fact, I was having a conversation with someone just recently about housing discrimination, and I've not doubted that it exists, but I've oftentimes wondered, how could it be proven? So it's very interesting to learn the measurements, the techniques that are being used for that, so I appreciate that information. I think those are my comments, but really, really great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, great presentation. This is awesome. I have a couple of questions. The first being, while you're investigating, is that tenant protected from being evicted during that time for those reasons related to the investigation?
If there is a risk of them being evicted, or if the eviction process has started, we can get a stay on the eviction if we're in the deliberations of trying to help them. So yeah, there is a process to help that.
Okay. The reason I asked that question, now that eliminates question number 2, is people who are very hard to house, like felons or sex offenders, that could potentially lead them to be homeless if they're evicted, and then
Yeah.
it's even more difficult to house them afterward.
Yeah.
Are these resources given to caseworkers that, so that they know that you can report discrimination? I think there's a lot of miscommunication out there that, like, especially the LGBTQ community can't report discrimination because of the lack of like penalties in North Dakota for that.
Right, yes. For LGBTQ individuals, there's some case law that supports protecting them under the anti-discrimination against sex. It just depends on how they were discriminated, whether that can work. And we do partner with as many people as we can throughout the state, getting out our materials. I'm frequently sending packets of materials to different people. So if you know somebody who does want materials, yes, absolutely. We network as much as we can with people.
Yeah, for sure. I'm the nurse at Homeless Health Services, so I'll make sure that this stuff gets out so that
Yes, and we'd be happy to send you more.
distributed. Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
I don't have any questions, but great work here. It's going to help a lot of people in a lot of different programs here in the Fargo area.
So I just have some questions about the secret shopper, and you said that you're looking for people. Is there an age range that you're specifically looking for, or is it just more anybody in the Native American population?
For here in Fargo, we used to have a good cohort of people who were our testers, and they have since either graduated from school or moved away and such. So Fargo, we're wide open. We need anybody in Fargo, Native American and other people as well. And really, I think probably just 18 plus. There's no age limit or minimum that I know of.
Okay, and then is it a volunteer opportunity, or is there exchange for like a
we call-
monetary gift for it? Or do people
They
just
use,
donate?
in our agency, we use the oxymoron of a paid volunteer. It's not consistent work. We only contact people when we have a specific case that we're working on. So it's very irregular, but when people come in, I think we're currently giving $25 per phone call and $70 for an in-person visit. So they are compensated. And people can make fairly good money. If you come in and make 4 phone calls, I mean, that's $100 there. So it's just very inconsistent.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Yeah.
I have nothing to contribute other than to say thank you for your work. It's great to hear that there's an advocate for people in need. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I have a couple of questions, please. I apologize for being late. I'm Sharon. One of my questions has to do with the landlords, how they become landlords. Do they have to have a certain certificate or pass, some certain rules? Is there something to that? Do they have specific things?
I have only been working here for 2 months, so that question is new to me. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I do know that if part of the process of conciliation or of trying to make amends when discrimination happens is that landlords who have been charged with discrimination have to go through training, and our agency provides that training to landlords so that they no longer.
Okay, so they don't have anything specific that they have to have a license before becoming a landlord or anything? So
I'm not sure.
that is some of the case where I see someone has renting like half of their home and then there becomes a situation and then they have to become homeless or move out of town because the person, there's a situation there. And they feel like they don't have any recourse for that. So I'm just wondering about that.
Unfortunately, the way that the Fair Housing Act is written, they have exemptions for certain rental units. So if it's an owner-occupied building with 4 or fewer units, it's exempt from the Fair Housing Act, which makes it very hard. If it's like someone who's living in the basement, it makes it hard for us to be able to assist them in these smaller kind of landlord situations.
Well, it seems like someone should try to do something different about that because a lot of people that maybe you're wanting to, help, they may live in units like that. And so I think that they're falling through the cracks then.
Yes, and there is a law from 1860 something that protects people on race, but it hasn't been pushed quite enough to make the case laws that can support the claims, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to see you here and doing this work. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the chair, Sharon Whitebear.
Thank you, Lenore. Okay, the next thing that we had, I don't know if you had removed the census from there, but I can speak to that just a little bit. For the presentation of the 2020 census, again, we're trying to seek people to help us with getting out to the Native American community in Fargo in order to get them registered through the 2020 census. As we know that will, if they're counted, that helps bring more money to the city, and that also helps with the things that when we live here that we're allowed to have as well, or we take advantage of as well. So I know Audra was going to present on that, but I can tell you that they're really busy right now. In Bismarck, they're having a tribal summit there with the tribal chairmen of each tribe from North Dakota, and one of the things they're doing today is they're meeting on this census to help with each reservation and to help with the urban areas and come up with ideas to get more people signed up through the census. Thank you. And the next thing we have is a sponsorship request from the Crossroads Powwow. And I think we've all had an opportunity to read that. And so what I'd like to do is, do we have anyone here right now to present from the FM Crossroads?
Just kidding, just kidding. It's the hair.
The hair.
Thank you. Just introduce yourself.
My name is Scotty Sattermo. Good to see you, Sharon. Good to see that you're the chair.
Thank you.
I've been a member of this community since 1984, and the very first powwow that they had around here, we had up in Trollwood. It was myself, Gladys Ray, the St. John family. I think Kenny Gray went in and a couple of us put that on. And I know I was young at that one because I was still fancy dancing. And we at that time we wanted to get involved in having cultural programming for the community. That was 35 years ago. I've continued that and been involved in it pretty much my entire life. So we started off with those initial powwows. We even had a powwow at I think it's called Meridian. At that time, it was a mall. Do you remember that, Sharon?
Yes, I was
And
there.
we had a powwow there, and we slowly built that thing up. And then, at the time, I think Pam Belgard and Liz Yellowbird and some of those started the college powwow, which then we started having a tri-college event, and that's where that came from. I've been involved in every one of those. As we move forward and as my professional career in Fargo took off, I had access to a lot more people that were willing to donate to switch it to a contest powwow. It took, really 20 years to really get that thing going, and we've been doing that. That's where this Crossroads and the nonprofit came from. Crossroads, as a nonprofit, does other things besides the powwow. We're involved in other items. We work pretty close, right directly also with the city, and we'll probably do more things with the city in the future as we've been having more and more conversations with them. We want to stay in the community and keep doing those things. I myself have taken on a role at the tribe in Newtown, so I'm not here as much as I used to be, but I still have quite a bit of involvement. We started the commission myself. I'm glad to see Sharon still on there. There was myself and Sharon and Willard, Pat Zavarel and Denny Wallacher had come to us asking to put together a commission to kind of look at issues within the Native community, and that's where your guys' seeds came from those early days. So we were pretty involved in all of that stuff. Guy had called me and said that there was, people wanting us to come in and explain Crossroads, and I thought, well, maybe I need to come in and help with that. And our relationship with the city goes back to when I was an engineer here. And, as far as the community, the Crossroads, my family as well, have been involved with just about everything that kind of transpired over the years between the Indian centers and the different nonprofits that have been in town. So we're going to continue to do that. We're hoping for your sponsorship against this year, and we'll continue to do those things. But I came in to kind of speak on our behalf. I guess there was a meeting and, no one was there or something, and there was concerns. And, we all are going to have busy lives as well. So we want to make sure that we make ourselves available to you. And that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Scott, for being here.
You bet.
So we'll go ahead and ask questions if you have them. I'd like for everyone to get a chance, the opportunity to speak, so I would ask that you be recognized by the chair before you speak. And I'll start here with John.
It's really good that you came here, and your contribution in public service is really noted. I met you about 30 years ago when I went to my first ever Little Shell powwow and went up and introduced you and said, my sister Mary Strand was a friend of your sister Barb Sattermo.
Yeah, roommates
if I
in
recall.
college.
Roommates in college. It's great work you're doing, and it's just an honor to work with you.
Thank you. Lots of gracias.
Go ahead, Rebecca.
I don't have any questions, but thank you for being here and presenting the information and for what you're helping to provide in terms of education too for the community.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Whitney?
One question I had was just kind of what's in mind for the amount that that FMC is requesting. I just think it's good for the community to know. Community members asked that of me to know like months ago. So that was my question that I had during last time.
What is your question?
Kind of what's in mind for that $10,000? Is there something that
That overall donation goes in towards funding. Probably will go either to administrative level or what's in contest funding.
okay, sure.
Go ahead, Chelsea.
First off, it's great to see you. I'm really excited to see FMC represented here today. As far as the request for the $10,000, that was approved in the budget and has been for a few years. My only question is, going forward, would there be an availability, and I think this is something that FMC had originally stated, was that the funding would go down from the city and NAC as the powwow progressed. So what does that timeline look like as far as in the future? What would be a partnership agreement or a request from the NAC and from the city to kind of allow self-determination with the powwow, including funding? So what would the timeline be to kind of scale back the amount of funding needed from us to make sure that this event and all of the programs that Fargo-Moorhead Crossroads has put on throughout the years, not just the powwow? So that would be the first question. And the second question would be, instead of funding the contest, because it goes into general funding is my assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, but instead of utilizing the financing from NAC for contest payouts and administrative, could we focus that portion more on entrepreneurial vendors, the programs that FMC runs, the information about what powwow is, what dancing is, the booklets that you guys have that you plan on giving out? Could that be, the funding be used for that instead of the contest payouts, and also making sure that we have free entrance for our low-income families? 3 questions in one, Scotty, sorry.
That's okay. I think whatever that, I don't see the funding really going up or down. I think maybe adjusting directly for the city with different things that we're doing. We're visiting with them right now about other opportunities that Crossroads can do with them as a nonprofit. You know, how we use this initial money that comes in. Right now, it's kind of just a general fund. We have our cost to get the building, and then our overall cost. And however that plays out, that affects everything, you know. So that's kind of how we do it right now. You know, in the future, do we look at doing other things? Well, we sure can, you know. Hasn't really been any kind of, we just look at what are the volumes that we're looking at from each of our sponsorship levels, and how are they going to get involved. You like say our tribe, your tribe as well, you know, they kick in usually $20,000 to $27,000 into our powwow. With that sponsorship, then they request, you know, that they would have tickets for our members, you know, which is fair considering that level of donation. And our donation levels are set up for things like that. Now, the city of Fargo has never gotten to that level. I don't think that that's, you know, we sure would take that, but the next issue would be, how would we go about finding those? If you're from a tribe, you have a membership card, right? There's a way, an identifier to know who those people are. So we would have to look at the city. how are you going to identify those people at the front gate when they come in? How are we going to know? Because you have urban people from every community here. So that's one of the things that we would have to sit down with you, and you'd have to give us some kind of guidance, and we'd have to know that there was a plan for that. But not against it, but that would be one of the issues that I would see.
I think too, a solution for that, you know, I know that the budget that we provided to the exec committee is maybe 135 to 150 grand. And with that, we have line items for the extracurricular things outside of the powwow. So there's the money on the day of the powwow that makes it go. And that's not the full 135 to 150. Let's say that's 85 to 90 for drum payout, contest payout, MC, honor guard. If we want to partition the 10 grand and show that we have entrepreneurial groups show up, extracurricular activities in the off season away from the powwow weekend, we can maybe work out a deal too where the 10,000 is allocated directly to those receipts. And then we can, it's a one-to-one relationship where there's a paper trail. We had a $500 scholarship to MSUM. The NAC will pay that directly, and over the total of what we decide to disperse the 10 grand, then there's a paper trail to it. It just doesn't get dumped into a general fund. And if we would like to clean it up from that point, we surely can. It's just we haven't been posed with that question right now. All of the donors, if we get $100 from an auntie or $500 from a corporate sponsorship, it dumps into the fund or the pot that funds everything else. So we do have language classes planned. We have sponsorships for singing and dance expos at the schools. We have sponsorships for Maniba and for Native Stand and the NAC Winter Powwow, other things, and we can do a better job of showing where that 10 grand goes. So.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you both. I appreciate it.
Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I've been at the front line at the powwows, welcoming, greeting people as they come in, selling programs, and it's been such a great powwow, and it's been such a great for our community and all our tribes, because I know a lot of people from a lot of tribes, and it's just great to see them, and I know it's just going to get better every year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Heather?
I guess I'm going to go back to Chelsea's question because I'm not sure I got a clear answer from it on the question of, so are you guys continuing to budget for the 10,000 every year moving forward from the NAC? Because I know with nonprofits, there should be a sustainability plan. And so my biggest question that I had last time was, as a nonprofit, are you guys successful in writing grants and receiving grants from our region? And is that something that, if you're not successful, is it because you've tried and not been well, or do you need somebody on your team to help with that? Because I want to go on a personal record saying I love this powwow. It has nothing to do with the fact that I don't enjoy it. I think it's great. I've worked with Guy to get you guys in to do things with our school. I just think as a community money pocket, what can we do to help so that this is a pretty good chunk of our budget? That what can we do to help you guys become more sustainable without continuously coming back for the exact same amount of money moving forward?
Mm-hmm. I think, a couple things. The dollar amount, as we're going forward, we could change that, we can move it around. We could even pull it outside of the Native Commission and just work directly with the city. If that makes it easier, then you wouldn't have to deal with it. There's lots of different things that we could do. As far as other funding, I think we do have a Bush grant. I don't know how much that was, up 300,000 or something?
100 grand spread over 3 years.
Yeah, so spread over a couple, 3 years. So we do have other grant opportunities. I think one of the big focuses for Crossroads, and really for us as a whole Native community, is to build that relationship up with some of these private business in town here. That's a tough sell sometimes, and it takes a long time, and you got to be in for the long haul. That may be a 20-year plan, but we're slowly getting there, and that grows. And a lot of the people on the Crossroads board are business owners that have been in business a long time that are now developing the relationships where some of the people that in the past wouldn't sponsor anything like this are now willing to do that. And, you know, an example of this, just last week, you know, most people that know me know I'm really involved with Bison everything. And, you know, we put on a big thing down at the Twins game. And a business owner, a big tailgate that we had put on, a business owner came up and said, "Hey, Scotty, we want to get involved. This thing that you're doing is great. And, you know, we want to give you a $500 sponsorship." Now, this is a business that came forward that over the years, some of my businesses have been involved with. I would not have probably approached him usually, you know, but he came. The relationships that we have and the network that we have is so solid, and it's growing, and people are saying, "Hey, these guys are doing this." I think that, you know, we would appreciate as much involvement from the city at whatever level it is, whether it's dollar or space or some of the other things that we're going to come into. I don't think the dollar really is the focus for us as much as the relationship that we need to have with the city.
Then for the grant writing too, we can, of course, always be better. We have the Bush Foundation grant, and we'd like to learn a way to stay in that system. Once in, that's $100,000 over 3 years. We have a Sanford grant for $5,000, and you know, we can do better in that fashion too. But the upside to this powwow is, this is our 4th year. We're established. People monetarily understand that, you know, we're fiscally responsible. We're not a bunch of natives that are going to scoop up some cash and then embezzle and bail out. With that, we have a platform where it's the biggest singing and dancing event in our region. And so United Tribes is even coming up this weekend. That used to be, you know, the bomb. And, you know, with different committees come different energies, but Crossroads is on the map. The downside is it's a $10,000, how are we going to negotiate this for years forward? Do we have to wean it off of the NAC? Do we have to find solutions? And we can. The upside is that the commission has a platform to do whatever they want and get national recognition. If we want to have a fashion show, we want to do a basketball tournament, we want to have you know, hip-hop artists come and do shows, we have speakers come in. The platform is set. Now it's up to the commission and our group and our collaboration to find a solution that fits. And maybe that $10,000 can be organized in a way that everybody agrees on. Instead of having a private party for singing and dancing, maybe the commission over the next 5-10 years feels more comfortable with having speakers come from around the world, and, you know, it's an educational piece. Or maybe we're passionate about something else. And then we can talk about negotiating that. But the downside is one thing, but there's a huge upside to having this ready to go, plug and play.
You know, and I really look at that. I look at everything in terms of kind of long-term strategies, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year. The relationships that I've built up in some of the positions that I've been in have developed a lot of the stuff that have got Crossroads where it is. My relationship with putting powwows together can go from anything from having started the little winter powwow here to doing urban powwows to doing, well, even this year, I had Little Shell powwow, largest in the, you know, on the res. Now I'm the president of that. So we have those all of those relationships and the network that I'm bringing with Crossroads and the other people is going to strengthen this community, because I can be the spokesperson. Now it's funny because I used to be a spokesman. They used to call us the Eastern Hidatzas, the Red River Hidatzas, they used to call us, because we were all the ones going to school over here. Sharon knows about that. And now I'm back there advocating for Fargo because I'm living in Newtown, so it's kind of bizarre. But all of those relationships are going to help us as we move forward to build a more inclusive and understanding awareness of Native community issues and things for the city. And I think that's what Crossroads brings.
Any other questions? Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question I have, and without belaboring it, looking into the future, one of the things I'd like to see us explore as a city partnership goes is the Civic Auditorium an alternative that would help us with your cost flow, with your expenses, and with our ability to contribute in kind with a facility or give you a better deal? I don't know if it's too small or not, and I'm not sure how long the Civic's going to be here, But if you could just put that in your mix into the future, if there is a way to make that work, we might be able to pull in our belts a little bit and help in a little more different way. And I wouldn't mind seeing the powwow downtown. But
I think from the powwow standpoint, you know, we looked at, when we first started that powwow, we looked around for a venue. There's not a lot of places that can handle what we're trying to do. And actually, Steve Scheel was involved. And Steve was like, you know, look at Shields Arena, of course, you know. And plus, he was a big donor. So that was helpful. And that was one of the reasons. And at that time, there was I think there was some change going on at the Civic Center. And we just couldn't get a lot of consensus within the group that was working there. And as we looked at it, we thought, well, we don't know if that would be the size that we want to get. And the Shields Arena, you know, when you put these powwows together and that level of powwow, you want to have something that stands out. This was kind of a cool idea in a hockey stadium, and that was part of it. Now, we have had our issues there as well, because we end up pushing against whatever the hockey team, you know, the Sharks or whatever, our period, and that's why we moved our powwow to the fall, because we were in the spring and we wanted to lock that date, but it started pushing against issues at Shields, so we moved to this other date. I think there's other venues. I don't think that the city Civic Center, I guess we'd revisit it. I don't know. I haven't been real happy with the Civic. I'm probably an advocate against it more than I am for it. So, but you know, if we sat down and looked at it and what are the issues, because it is expensive to go to Shields Arena. There's no doubt about it. But you know, I think we started off paying probably 14 grand. I think we're probably at 20 something right now. So there are some issues there. Thanks, though.
Any other questions?
I was going to comment
ahead.
on the civic part of it. We've heard that suggestion, that solution. We're learning how to incorporate that into our scheme. We worked with Steve French and Joe Burgum on Farmers Market. They had the same suggestion. There's a kind of a grassroots feel to the civic. You know, we can get better buy-in from people downtown. And we thought there might be a hybrid solution with having a Friday community powwow. We can do our local honoring and you know, graduations, birthdays, veterans coming home. Maybe we can handle some of that traditional business at the Civic on a Friday. And then on Saturday, Sunday, we can have the polish show at the Shields Arena and kind of have the best of both worlds. I know that when we're going up against Winnipeg, which is Manitowoc, and then there's Edmonton, that they have state-of-the-art facilities, and we want to make sure that we compete so that we stay on the map. The contest, you know, circuit, like the rodeo circuit, is a fickle group, and as soon as you change something, or you know, you're not a genuine group anymore, they just stop coming to your powwow. And because there's been a resurgence in this powwow attendance with singers and dancers, we're going up against Rapid City. There's a powwow in Wisconsin right around the same date. There's California powwows in this fall that are casino powwows, big dollars. And we want to make sure that the Shields Arena is still that kind of that signature where we draw the champs in, but we're still listening to the suggestion and the advice that, you know, let's blend both of those ideas and kind of have that community feel at the Civic.
And see, and my push, quite frankly, you know, is talking to the Dome Authority, and we're pushing for the Fargo Dome. That's the level we want to get to. Now, you know, we probably never fill the Fargo Dome with dancers for quite a while, but there is a half-dome configuration where we could also have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament right next door. We could do fun things like that, or have a trade show in you know, at the same time as our, you know, kind of following some of the things that they do down in Albuquerque, you know. But I think the Dome and bringing to that level is the next step for us. But you know, we'll keep going. You do with what you can do, and you got to dream big.
Thank you, Scotty. I don't. If there's no other questions that need to be answered, I would just like to say I know that where this powwow started from, and I've appreciated that. And one of the biggest things that we looked at that time was that there wasn't a whole lot of things going on for Native American people in this city, and we were still trying to make that connection to bring our cultural forward. And so we bought into this powwow because we knew that what it would bring to the city. The amount of people, the city surely can see as well how much dollars come into this city when that happens. And that's not the only reason, it's that if I were to ask Guy from the FM Crossroads, help me because somebody needs their trash taken away, or help me with, can you do this? They don't even hesitate. They come and do it, a lot of things at their own expense. And when people come to the Native American Commission and no one sees those little things that people ask for, I can always count on the FM Crossroads and Scott, any of these guys, to help us out for if there's some issue going on. And I appreciate that. And so I think that this is a good way to get our money out for a lot of people, for the Native American community. And that's why I'm for having this powwow and offering this amount of money. And at the executive committee meeting, we recommend that we sponsor the FM Crossroads powwow for the $10,000. So at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion. If anyone would like to make a motion to this.
I'll make a motion. I will make a motion that the Native American Commission extend the $10,000 amount requested on the sponsorship application to the FM Crossroads Powwow and Native Festival.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Please call the roll.
Keeler,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
Fox,
I'll abstain. Please.
King,
Yes.
Knutson,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
Snyder,
Yes.
White Bear.
Yes. With one abstaining, this is passed. The $10,000 will be used for this powwow coming up.
Sige na, nakapago.
Go stay.
Go with.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the budget proposal. And I think even last week we had time to look at that. And one of the main things that we were deciding on is this Crossroads powwow amount. And with that being on there, and we've decided on that, I would like to entertain a motion that we accept this budget for 2019. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll second.
I would like to entertain a motion. Can someone please make a motion?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't second. Let me make that motion. Sorry, guys. I make the motion that we approve the budget in front of us, dated 8/29/19.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Knutson,
Yes.
Snyder,
Oh, Shaw, yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Keeler,
Yes.
Fear,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Strand,
Yes.
White Bear.
Yes. With all the ayes have it, and then this budget is approved for this year. The next thing on the agenda is the Indigenous Peoples' Day events. And at this time, I'd like to ask Heather if she would like to give us any information, and because I know that this is kind of their day to have, since they have just passed that this year, and I know we're having a meeting after this, but if you'd like to go ahead and present something for this.
Sure. I'll just present the things that we have confirmed rather than some of the ideas that we're working on. So we know for sure in the morning at Moorhead City Hall from 9 to 9:30, we will be having a city presentation that includes both Moorhead and Fargo. I know that the Moorhead mayor has confirmed, and this will be both mayors along with the Native American Commission and the Moorhead Human Rights Commission, as these were the two commissions who have been a part of creating this day in both communities. During the day, there's a couple different tracks going on. Our Indian education programs will be having Youth Day events that will be taking place within the schools. And then also MSUM is hosting some professional development focused on higher ed and how to retain and graduate our American Indian students. In the evening, we'll be having a free meal. The meal will start at 5 and go until 6:30, and that'll take place at Moorhead High School. At this point, we're still opening the door for volunteers to serve, so if there's any student groups or community groups that want to come in and volunteer, that would be great. And then we're working on having grand entry at 6:30. Dignitaries from universities are invited, as well as city officials. That'll start at 6:30 at the Moorhead High School Gymnasium, and so it's nice that we're all in the same place. And then that will need to be wrapped up and done by 9. So I think that that's all we have confirmed at this time. More things are in the works. And the biggest thing is that we're always looking for volunteers and support throughout the entire day.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Guy?
Nice job on taking lead. No question.
Lenore?
I have no questions.
Chelsea?
Yeah, so if volunteers want to participate, how would they reach out? How can they contact you? Is there a Facebook, website? What's the best way to be a part of this?
So we created a Facebook page. It's just under Moorhead Indigenous Peoples Day. I think that at this point, that's probably the best bet because it gets to multiple administrators that are on that. I think also if there's anybody who's interested in reaching out, they could contact the commission's page. Maybe that's something that we can talk about a little bit more in our meeting following this point.
Okay. Whitney?
No questions. Great job.
Okay. Rebecca?
So you said the Moorhead Indigenous Peoples page, did you say, on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
And then will there be an event page created specifically for this?
Once we know the exact dates and more speaker presentation, probably. Again, we have meetings, I feel like, on a daily basis on some level of this. And so the first thing that we did was just create a page to start to get information out. And then once we get closer and really finalize things, then we'll create different events that you can share and invite.
But it is October 14th.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
John?
Only noting good work, but it's nice to see us being more a community, going across the river, across the state. Indian country is growing, and it's good news, you guys. Good work.
Yeah, and I think that we made it pretty clear in laying the foundation that it would go back and forth. Or, and then maybe if West Fargo gets on board with changing it, then it can be a rotation. And so we're just really lucky to have it in our city and have the collaboration efforts be so strong.
Okay, thank you. And the next thing is, part of that as well is during that time, we will be having the Gladys Ray Award. And if you go on our website for the Native American Commission, the deadline for submitting those applications for that are September 25th. And so if you know someone in the community who's been doing a lot with the Native American community in this urban area, please don't hesitate to fill out a nomination and send it in to us by September. Thank you. The next thing is public comment. Do we have anyone who would like to do public comment? Sure, come on up, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Edwin Hahn. I'm a founder of a company called LightSpring. LightSpring is a North Dakota-based company. We're an energy technology company that believes in freedom, and specifically energy freedom and the right for the individual or a community to be able to produce, store, and sell their own electricity. So we've been working closely with United Tribes Technical College in Bismarck over the last year, and we've trained up and equipped over 60 Indigenous students on how to build solar, how to produce energy using solar technology, also how to utilize battery and energy storage systems. And they've been able to bring some of that information back to their communities and help them with energy freedom and energy independence. So I'm in front of the commission today just to introduce LightSpring and what we're doing. And I'd be happy to share some more information about us and where we are in a formal presentation at a later date. But for the most part, we've been very much interested in equipping the indigenous people, and again, we've been working with United Tribes. We'll be represented at United Tribes Powwow this weekend. If anyone wants to see some of the work that we're doing, we put together a mobile solar unit that will power all the lighting and the PA system of the powwow. So there's quite a bit of work that we're doing. We just want to introduce ourselves and specifically ask to understand the needs of the communities that you each represent and how we can collaborate and potentially bring back energy independence to your communities. So you can reach us on Google Business at lightspring.io. Also edwin@lightspring.io, that's my personal email address, and I'd be happy to pass on our contact information to the commission if you're interested in having us come back and share.
Okay, thank you. What I would like to do, Edwin, is have you submit that request to the planning committee so that if there's a possibility to get on the next agenda, I would like to see a presentation about that if we could.
Very good, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Just quick.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
Is it North Dakota only that you guys work, or do you guys help over in Minnesota as well?
Yeah, so we work in the little northwest part of Minnesota, but most of our work has been done in the North Dakota region. And so we're a North Dakota-based company, and again, through Bismarck and the Fargo-Moorhead area.
Well, thank you. If you can leave a card or something, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, then I would like to see, does anyone have any announcements? No. I have a couple of announcements. They are a couple of things. One of the things that we have in our community, or we don't have in our community, is something called QEW, and that has to do with children that are in the custody of the county, so this is a qualified expert witness is what we call through the ICWA laws. And each tribe is trying to find people to represent them in each urban area. So they're going to be having some classes in order for you to become certified as a QEW. And here in Fargo, and it'll be at the end of this month. And so I would like to ask if there's anyone who would like to be involved in this. And yes, they do need to be registered tribal member from one of the tribes here in North Dakota. And the class is free. And it'll be like a 2-day thing where you have to take 2 days for that. So if anyone is interested in that, if you can please call me, Sharon, at the 701-421-2379. This is a really important position that we need to have for our children when someone is dealing with issues in the court. So, and then the other thing I have is with the generosity from the MHA Nation and the Four Bears segment, we have received quite a few more school supplies. And so we would like any of the MHA Nation students to please come by and pick up what you don't already have, or just come by so that, whatever you need is pretty much there. So come by our office at 401 3rd Avenue North, and you can pick up some supplies there. And we're running that through next Friday, the 13th. So from tomorrow to next Friday. And then after that, we will probably take some of those supplies and help with the Indian education. I know they're having a night on September 18th for back to school. So we'll probably be bringing some of those things there. So those are my 2 announcements. Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead.
I have one. So Moorhead Public Schools has a job posting open, and they're Indian education program. So if any qualified applicants would be interested in applying for the Native American liaison position, that job is posted on the Moorhead School District website at this time. And I believe it's open for the next 2 weeks. So qualified candidates, please apply.
Anyone else? Okay, next we have the staff report. Nicole,
I'll
thank
take
you.
care of the first item, and then Catlin will take care of the second item. But real quick, just 2 minutes on the first item regarding the Native American Program Consultant. We do have finalists, and we've interviewed all the finalists, so now we're just checking references, et cetera. I would say this selection committee ended up consisting of Sharon Whitebear, Lenore King, and Guy Fox. And so we have interviewed 3 finalists out of the 9 that applied, and we'll be coordinating reference checks and then finalizing a recommendation and presenting that to you next time.
Thank you, Nicole.
So you all should have another handout regarding strategic planning, and you'll see the first slide there is just a list.
Excuse me?
Go ahead, sorry.
Just go ahead and say your name
Oh,
and
yeah.
tell you
Hello,
what you work
my
for.
name is Catlin. I'm an assistant planner.
Thank you,
And,
Gatlin.
Yeah, so this is just sort of a draft of the different strategic planning units that the Native American Commission could tackle with the upcoming meetings, and it's open for discussion. But we're gonna, just for the sake of time, skip to number 2 for today. And as you may recall, we did not finish with drafting a vision and mission statement, and so it might be helpful at this time just to work backwards a little bit. And so here are 5 sort of buckets or filters that all the different programs tend to go through for the Native American Commission. And so if you look at the chart, the beautiful chart that we drafted up, this is again just for discussion purposes. So we tried organizing all the different sort of activities and programs that the NAC touches into where they might be best fit in regards to the greater community. And so really what we're asking from you guys with this chart is just to see what you think. Do you think these columns are accurate? What would be, in your ideal scenario, what the NAC is working on? And so if you have any initial comments for right now, feel free to share them, or we're open to, grabbing coffee, or you can mark up this document and turn it in with your feedback. But really, we just want to start working backwards so that we can then finalize that mission and vision statement. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Catlin? John? Rebecca?
I don't have any questions, but I love how this is organized. So it provides us a good way to put some thought into it, I think, seeing this organization. So thank you for that.
Whitney?
No questions.
Chelsea?
Yeah, just for me, or if anybody else would like it, is there any way you could send us the chart and then just a list of a blank chart where it's not already placed? So that I have a hard time kind of doing that unless I have so yeah, I just would like the list and then a blank sheet so I
Okay,
can
thank you.
jump them together.
No, it looks like everything's covered there.
Thank you. Heather? do you have
I
any
think this
questions?
is great, and I hope that we talk more about this in depth later.
Guy?
Yeah, thank you for the organization. This makes perfect sense. The different compartments to place everything in, organize it, then it's defined. So thank you.
Thank you very much to the Planning Committee. I appreciate all your hard work, and I would like to give the commissioners time to look this over, and then I would like to just table any discussion or decision until the next meeting.
And maybe just to add to that real quick.
Sure.
I think probably one of the biggest constraints right now is finding a time and location where we can get the majority of our commissioners, the Native American commissioners, to come together. And so maybe just think about that, and we can start some doodle polls again and try to give everybody advance notice. I know everybody has different work schedules, and we may just have to go with the majority to have time for longer conversations, to try to find a time that works for everybody. With, again, different work schedules is becoming a challenge. So I think that will be a question for when we meet at the executive committee to discuss, kind of how we want to proceed forward on finding some meeting times, so.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, Catlin. Okay, so our next meeting is October 3rd, 2019 here, and so can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second. Oh, I motion, sorry, I did it again. I motion to adjourn.
Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Have a good weekend.